Hello, cozy friends. Today I'm making a lemon cake with a strawberry buttercream. I'm going to visit my grandparents this weekend, and my grandfather has been on a strawberry kick, and my grandmother's favorite flavor is lemon, so I'm combining the two. In a separate medium-sized bowl, I'm whisking together my flour, baking powder, and salt, and I'm just going to set this aside. And then I have my paddle attachment on my stand mixer, which is great for whipping butter and sugar together without whipping too much air into it, because we're just looking to kind of cream the butter versus whipping it. This is where I add my lemon zest. To me, you should always rub your zest into your sugar. I do this with my cranberry orange scones, and I think it has the best impact on flavor. I also stop the mixer a few times in between just to scrape things down and make sure that there's no butter that doesn't get incorporated or whipped pretty well into this. And then once the butter looks a little bit lighter, I start adding my 3 eggs one at a time. And then I add my vanilla, which in this case I'm using a vanilla paste. I am modifying a vanilla cake recipe that I found, adding in that zest, and I'm actually adding about a tablespoon of lemon juice as well, just to punch up that lemon flavor in the cake a little bit. Starting to add my flour mixture and alternating with my milk. You can use buttermilk. I didn't have any on hand. I know there are also some recipes with yogurt or sour cream that makes for a creamier cake. Feel free to find any vanilla recipe that works for you and just add that little bit of lemon if you want to modify it. I do also have my oven already preheated at 350 and 2 9x9 cake pans that are lined at the bottom with some parchment paper. As soon as the last of my flour mixture and my milk is in, I turn off my mixer, scrape down the top, and then just do those last few folds by hand to make sure that everything is nice and incorporated before I put everything in my pans. These will go into the oven for about 30 to 35 minutes. My oven runs a little bit hot, so I keep it at 350, but I usually check it around like 28 minutes just to be sure. I'm taking these out, but I'm going to let them sit for about 10 minutes before I take them out of their pans. And in the meantime, I'm just going to give my strawberries a nice little wash. We'll use these for both the puree and some chocolate-covered strawberry decorations on the top. These cakes come really nicely out of the pan, so I'm really, really happy with them. And now I don't have a real wire rack. I'm improvising here. Unfortunately, I did forget to record making the strawberry puree, but essentially, I took 6 strawberries, cut the tops off, threw them in the small smoothie blender that I have, and blended until they were liquid, and then I strained them to get the seeds out. You'll see the strawberry puree I'm talking about in just a second, but in the meantime, we are getting started on the buttercream portion of this. Again, with the paddle attachment, I have a half cup of butter that I'm whipping just to get it nice and fluffy before we add anything else in. To this, we'll add about half of our strawberry puree. The other half I'm going to save for adding to the bottom layer of my cake, and then I also want to whip some into the whipped cream filling that I'm going to do in the middle. I add this to that whipped butter just to get things going a little bit before we add our sugar in. We're going to add 1 cup at a time, but about 3 cups of icing sugar, about half a teaspoon of vanilla. Again, I don't have extract. I'm using the vanilla paste that I have. You can use whatever you have on hand. I am also going to add about a tablespoon of cream, and because I want to punch up the lemon flavor and really have it go nicely with my cake, I'm adding about a tablespoon of lemon as well. You can add sugar and adjust as needed until you get a texture that you're happy with. I look for these basically soft peaks. Pop that in the fridge while I do my whipped cream. For my whipped cream, I'm using about 2 ounces of heavy cream, and I'm just using the same bowl that I've already made my frosting in. I'm going to add strawberry flavoring anyway, and I don't mind if there's a little bit of sugar left over, so pour in my heavy cream, my strawberry puree, and start whipping on like a medium to high setting. I will be honest, this was my first time trying to add any sort of fruit puree to my whipped cream, so I started with a little bit, tested to make sure that it was forming the same stiffness as the whipped cream that I would be looking for, and then I added a little bit more. Then I went ahead and added the rest of my strawberry puree to my cakes. laid my first cake layer face down, and then just to add a little bit of moisture and a little bit more flavor to that middle layer, I spread a thin layer of the puree on top. Then my favorite part of the cake is the whipped cream with the strawberry. Just spooning this layer on and then evening it out a little bit. I want it to still be thick, and I'm not going all the way to the edges with it. I'm going to let my buttercream fill in those cracks in the middle of the cake. I am going to speed up this next part. It's really just myself icing the top of the cake, getting around the sides, trying to make it look as neat as possible. I'm not a professional by any means. For the final step, we are going to place our strawberries. I made these last night, the chocolate covered strawberries, and they're this massive, really pretty, perfect one that I decided to use in the edge of this cake. For one last finishing touch, I take my zester and grate a little bit of chocolate shavings over the top just to make it look a little extra cute. I'm so happy with it. It tasted amazing. My grandparents loved it, and it happened to be Valentine's Day weekend, so it felt perfect. Thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe for more cozy content.